The galaxy was vast, silent, and full of dangers that most civilizations could never imagine. The Galactic Empire thought it had seen everything. Armadas that could crush worlds, fleets that could make stars tremble, weapons that could turn planets into ashes. Yet at the edge of the Sol system, something appeared that made even the most seasoned admirals freeze in disbelief. A human battleship had emerged from hyperspace. But it was unlike any vessel the Empire had catalogued. Its hull gleamed with a strange light, almost alive, pulsing slowly like a heartbeat. Its size was enormous, yet its design was elegant and purposeful. It moved not with aggression, but with calm confidence, as if it belonged to the galaxy itself. Admiral Clyther, commander of the Imperial fleet, stared at the main screen. His many eyes widened. "No, it cannot be," he whispered. "No human ship can match this. Our sensors, they must be malfunctioning." But the readings were clear. The human vessel radiated immense energy. Its shields were impenetrable, its weapons capable of annihilating an entire moon. And still, it drifted silently, radiating quiet power that unsettled every alien officer aboard the Empire's warships. A communication officer, a small creature with twitching antennae, spoke hesitantly. "Sir, they are hailing us." In perfect galactic standard, Clyther's claws froze. "Put it through," he commanded. The voice that filled the bridge was calm, steady, and unmistakably human. "This is Captain Elena Rourke of the Terran Valor. We come in peace, but we are ready to defend ourselves. Do not test our patience." The Empire's officers glanced at each other. They had faced countless alien races, some that could destroy entire star systems, and yet this human voice carried an authority that made even their toughest commanders uneasy. "Send a warning," Clyther barked. "We cannot allow a single human to intimidate our fleet." Elena's reply was instant. "Warning received. We will observe, but we will not wait for provocation. History will remember today. Choose wisely." A silence fell over the Imperial fleet. Even their veteran officers felt it. The presence of this one human ship made the cosmos itself seem smaller, slower, as if it were holding its breath. Inside the Terran Valor, Elena stood at the bridge's railing. Her hands gripped it tightly, but her heart was steady. She had trained for this moment her entire life. Humans had always been underestimated. For centuries, their small planet had been considered weak, insignificant, unworthy of attention. Yet humanity had survived countless wars, cosmic disasters, and extinction events. Now the galaxy would see the truth. The Imperial fleet began to move. A dozen of their largest warships took formation, bristling with weapons. They were showing force, but their movements were tense, careful. Every commander knew something about this human ship was different. Elena's gaze remained firm. She did not fear the Empire. Humans had faced impossible odds before and had survived. They had adapted, learned, and overcome. This was just another test, and humanity would not fail. The Terran Valor's engines flared briefly, releasing a subtle pulse of energy that rippled across the void. It was not a weapon strike, but a signal, a quiet assertion of presence. Imperial sensors detected it immediately. Systems faltered. Communications stuttered. Alien officers stared at the displays, a chill running through them. Clyther muttered more to himself than anyone else. "Impossible. They are manipulating space itself, just by being here." Elena looked at the formation of enemy ships. She knew the battle could start at any moment. But she also knew something deeper. Courage was more powerful than fear, and humans had it in abundance. One ship, one crew, could make the galaxy think twice before underestimating them. Across the void, the Empire whispered among themselves, "That can't be a human battleship." Or can it? The standoff continued. Stars sparkled in the background, silent witnesses to the tension. And somewhere deep inside Elena, she felt a quiet certainty. The galaxy had never truly seen humanity, but it would. Today, the universe would learn that human courage, ingenuity, and spirit were forces no empire could ignore. And so, the stage was set. The first human battleship had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The Imperial fleet had never hesitated before. They had crushed entire civilizations with ease, relied on sheer numbers and firepower to overwhelm any opponent. Yet now, as they drifted in formation before the human battleship, something in their metal hearts faltered. Admiral Clyther gritted his teeth. "Prepare weapons. Target their shields. I want a warning shot fired." The fleet's cannons hummed, energy surging through them. A single beam of blue fire shot into the void, aimed directly at the Terran Valor. Inside the human battleship, Elena Rourke watched the beam approach. Her fingers danced over the controls. She did not panic. She had anticipated this. The pulse of energy from her engines earlier had not only disrupted the Empire's systems, it had created a temporary field around her ship that could deflect incoming energy. The beam struck her shields and bounced harmlessly into the empty space behind. A murmur rippled through the Imperial fleet. "Impossible," one officer shouted. "Our weapons, they cannot penetrate." Elena's voice echoed across her bridge, calm and firm. "This is your only warning. Do not force us to escalate." The Empire's ships readied themselves for attack. Hundreds of weapons locked onto her, yet every time a shot came, it faltered, fizzled, or misfired. Systems glitched. Engines stuttered. It was as if the very presence of the human ship rewrote the rules of the battlefield. Admiral Clethar slammed his claws on the console. "Concentrate fire! Destroy that ship before it destroys us all!" But the Terran Valor moved with fluid precision. It didn't dodge like other ships. They expected evasive maneuvers. Instead, it shifted its orientation, a subtle twist, almost graceful, and fired a single pulse of its own. The energy spread like a web, sweeping across the fleet's formation. Shields flickered. Weapons failed. Communications crackled and broke. Ships collided with one another as systems went haywire. Chaos erupted. The Imperial fleet, the greatest fighting force in the galaxy, was now scrambling in confusion. Elena watched the disruption carefully. She didn't want to kill unnecessarily. Humans had always believed in strength with honor. But if her ship and her crew were to survive, they could not wait for the Empire to realize her restraint. The aliens panicked. "It is just one ship," one yelled, though his voice trembled. "It cannot be."
"We have numbers!"
"We have technology, yet." Clethar's pride burned, but so did his fear. This was no ordinary human vessel. Its power was beyond comprehension, its strategy almost instinctive. Every move it made disrupted their carefully planned formations. Every pulse, every calculated shift made the Empire's warships look weak and clumsy. On the Terran Valor, Elena allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. She felt the weight of history on her shoulders, but she also felt the pride of humanity flowing through her veins. Earth had survived plagues, wars, and cosmic disasters. Humans had always risen when the odds were impossible. And now, the galaxy would finally understand. Suddenly, a massive Imperial dreadnought tried to flank the human battleship. Its engines roared as it accelerated, weapons blazing, but the Terran Valor's sensors had predicted this move. Elena fired a concentrated energy pulse at the approaching dreadnought. The ship shuddered, systems failing, weapons collapsing inward. It slowed, then drifted, harmless and powerless. A chorus of disbelief rose across the Imperial fleet. How can one ship? Elena did not answer. She focused on maintaining her formation, her crew, and her calm. One pulse at a time, one calculated action. She was rewriting what the galaxy thought was possible. Humans were underestimated for a reason. Their cunning, courage, and adaptability were weapons no one saw coming. The first engagement had ended before it had truly begun. The Imperial fleet, shaken and broken, fell back, regrouping in panic. The human battleship floated in space, untouched, victorious in silence. Elena gazed at the stars beyond the viewport. She knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would come at her with everything it had. They would not understand humans, their spirit, or their resilience. But she was ready. Humanity had survived impossible odds before, and they would do it again. The galaxy was beginning to learn a truth it could not ignore. Humans were not weak. Humans were not insignificant. Humans were unstoppable when their survival and pride were on the line. And from that moment on, every Imperial officer in the fleet would remember the first human move, the first pulse of warning that had shattered the pride of the greatest empire in the galaxy. The Terran Valor drifted silently, powerful, calm, and unyielding. A single human battleship that had shown the galaxy what humanity could do. The Imperial fleet had never known fear like this. Their ships, massive and bristling with weapons, floated in the void like kings of the galaxy. But the human battleship had shattered that illusion. One ship, one human crew, one captain, and yet the Empire trembled. Admiral Clethar gritted his teeth. They cannot be allowed to survive. Assemble the strike fleet, every warship at our disposal. We will crush them. A storm of energy erupted across the Imperial fleet as hundreds of warships accelerated toward the Terran Valor. Lasers carved through space, missiles streaked across the void, and planetary-grade weapons roared to life. Every ship fired in perfect synchronization, a testament to centuries of Imperial discipline. But the Terran Valor did not panic. Eleanor Rourke's calm eyes scanned the readouts. Her crew moved with precision, each human trained for this very moment. They had survived the impossible before. They would do it again, shields at maximum. Prepare countermeasures, Elena ordered. Her voice was steady, unyielding. We will not attack first, but we will survive. The first wave of attacks struck. Imperial lasers tore across the Terran Valor's hull, but the ship's shields shimmered and absorbed the blows. Weapons misfired, systems faltered, engines stuttered. The pulse of energy from the human vessel earlier had left a lingering effect. The Empire's systems were vulnerable, unstable. Captain, her tactical officer said, their fleet is reorganizing. They are coming at us from all sides, Elena nodded. Then we give them the lesson they forgot. Humans are adaptable. The Terran Valor darted through the oncoming fleet with precision no alien ship could match. Every maneuver was calculated, every pulse of energy designed to disrupt the enemy without unnecessary destruction. Imperial ships collided, weapons overloaded, and panic spread across their formation. Clithar's claws banged on the control panel. Focus fire. Concentrate everything on that ship. The dreadnought surged forward, massive weapons charging. Yet Elena anticipated every move. She fired precise bursts of energy, each one targeting the critical weak points of the Imperial vessels. They were not destroyed outright. Human strategy was about control, not unnecessary slaughter. But each strike crippled, slowed, or disabled. Ships drifted helplessly, systems failing. The Empire's officers screamed in disbelief. It is just one ship. How can it think, anticipate, and strike like this? Elena looked out the viewport at the chaos. Her crew moved like a single organism, every human instinct, every trained reflex in perfect harmony. She thought of Earth, of the countless generations that had survived the impossible. Humanity had endured plagues, wars, famine, and extinction. Humans had adapted when everything else had failed. This was their nature, and now the galaxy would learn. Another wave of Imperial ships surged forward. This time they tried a new tactic, flanking simultaneous volleys, overwhelming numbers. But Elena had predicted it. She fired a concentrated beam at the central dreadnought, causing it to explode in a controlled chain reaction. Nearby ships were forced to retreat to avoid destruction. Human ingenuity, Clither growled, cannot be allowed. Yet every attempt to overwhelm the Terran Valor failed. The human ship moved like water, flowing around obstacles, striking only when necessary, disrupting without overextending. Every pulse, every calculated strike reminded the Empire that humans were not machines. They were clever, adaptable, and fearless. Elena's voice broke the tense silence of her bridge. Signal to the Empire, she said. Tell them again, humans do not yield. Do not provoke us further. History is watching. Clithar's bridge received the message. For the first time, the Empire felt the weight of their own arrogance. They had underestimated one species, one planet, one human spirit, and it was humiliating. As the Imperial fleet faltered, retreating to reassess, Elena allowed herself a quiet smile. The first engagement had proven humanity's point. Courage, strategy, and resilience could overcome even the mightiest power in the galaxy. Her crew cheered quietly, not for destruction, but for survival, for ingenuity, for the undeniable truth that humans were underestimated no longer. Elena knew this was only the beginning. The Empire would come again, stronger, more determined. But humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they would do it again. Every human on the bridge felt it. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long. And as the stars stretched before the Terran Valor, Elena whispered quietly, almost to herself, "This is only the start. They will never forget the name of humanity." Across the void, the Empire reeled. One human battleship had shattered the illusion of invincibility. One human crew had taught the galaxy a lesson it could not ignore. The battle had begun, but humanity's spirit had already won. The Imperial fleet regrouped at the edge of the Sol system, A wall of warships bristling with weapons and arrogance. Admiral Clythar's pride had been shattered, and for the first time in his career he felt doubt gnawing at him. One human ship had humiliated the Empire, outmaneuvering hundreds of vessels, and now he had to find a way to recover. "Captain Clythar," a trembling officer said, "we cannot predict their next move. Their ship, it is unlike anything we have ever faced." Clythar slammed his clawed hand onto the console. "We adapt. We must destroy it before it destroys us." Meanwhile, aboard the Terran Valor, Elena Rourke studied the fleet with calm intensity. Her ship had survived the first assault, and now the humans would show the galaxy what courage truly meant. Her crew worked as one, every movement precise, every calculation perfect. Humanity thrived in impossible odds. They had always done so. "Sensors report multiple waves of attack forming," her tactical officer said. "They intend to swarm us." Elena's eyes narrowed. "Let them come. Humans do not fear overwhelming odds. Prepare countermeasures and synchronize all weapon systems. We will show them why Earth never surrenders." The first wave surged forward. Imperial warships fired with terrifying speed, their beams slicing through space. But the Terran Valor was a master of movement, shifting gracefully between volleys, absorbing strikes with shields and redirecting energy to counterattacks. A missile storm exploded around them, creating a storm of fire and metal. Elena's crew worked in perfect harmony, disabling incoming projectiles with precision pulses and timely energy dispersals. A dozen missiles collided mid-air, their explosions absorbed harmlessly by the ship's shields. "Impressive," muttered the chief engineer, scanning the damage reports. "They are losing cohesion. Systems are failing across the enemy fleet." Elena gave a small nod. This is what happens when arrogance meets courage. One human ship can disrupt an entire empire if strategy and spirit are combined. The Imperial fleet pressed harder, trying flanking maneuvers, attempting to overwhelm the Terran Valor from all sides. But every attempt failed. The human battleship anticipated movements, adapted instantly, and countered with stunning efficiency. Small, calculated pulses of energy targeted weak points in engines and shields, disabling ships without unnecessary destruction. One dreadnought tried a bold frontal assault, surging toward the Terran Valor with all its weapons firing. Elena fired a single concentrated energy pulse at the ship's engines. The dreadnought shuddered violently, its systems failing, and it drifted helplessly into space. Another wave of Imperial ships collided in the chaos, some firing upon each other by mistake. Clythar roared in fury, disbelief etched across his features. "Impossible. How can one ship, one human, control this battlefield?" Elena stood tall on the bridge, her voice calm and unwavering. "Humans adapt. Humans endure. Humans survive when all odds are against them. You will learn this today." Across the void, the Empire was in chaos. Ships that had once moved like a single, unstoppable force now staggered and faltered. The Terran Valor did not attack for dominance. It attacked with precision, crippling the fleet's cohesion, sowing confusion, and showing the galaxy that humans were not just fighters, but masters of strategy and courage. Even the soldiers aboard the Imperial warships whispered among themselves, fear and awe mingling in their voices. We cannot comprehend them. They are only one ship, yet they control the battlefield. What are they?" Elena allowed herself a quiet smile. She did not need to destroy the entire fleet. She only needed to prove a point. Humans were not weak, and the galaxy had underestimated them for far too long. As the Imperial fleet began to retreat, shaken and uncertain, Elena gave one final order. "Send a message. Let them know. The Terran Valor stands for humanity, and we will not bow to fear or tyranny. Today is a warning, not a threat, but history will remember our courage." The stars shimmered around them, silent witnesses to the courage and ingenuity of one human crew. Elena turned to her crew, her voice filled with quiet pride. "We have shown them today that humans never yield, that we endure, that we survive, and the galaxy has learned something it cannot forget. Humans are unstoppable when we fight for what we believe in." Her tactical officer nodded. "Captain, history will remember this. The Empire will remember this." Elena gazed at the stars beyond. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Humanity had proven itself, but the galaxy still held dangers beyond imagination. And yet she felt a surge of certainty. Humans had survived worse. Humans would endure. Humans would rise. For the first time, the galaxy truly understood. Humanity was not weak. Humanity was not fragile. Humanity was unstoppable, and the Terran Valor, a single human battleship, had become the symbol of that unstoppable spirit. The Imperial fleet had suffered more than it could admit. Hundreds of ships were crippled, communications were shattered, and morale had plunged to new lows. Admiral Clither, once the embodiment of the Empire's pride, stared at the stars with a mixture of rage and awe. "This cannot be," he muttered. "One human ship, one crew, against hundreds. And yet they survive." But the truth was undeniable. Humanity had survived, and not just survived, they had dominated the battle through courage, intelligence, and unity. The Terran Valor had become more than a ship. It was a symbol of human spirit, a beacon that the galaxy would never forget. Aboard the human vessel, Captain Elena Rourke stood on the bridge, her eyes scanning the retreating Imperial fleet. She felt the weight of the moment, the burden of her species on her shoulders. But she also felt pride, fierce and unyielding. Humanity had faced extinction, war, and impossible odds, and today, they had risen once more. Her crew moved around her, tired but unbroken, their faces reflecting relief, determination, and awe at what they had accomplished. Every pulse of energy, every calculated maneuver, every ounce of courage had brought them to this moment. Elena spoke softly, but her voice carried across the bridge. "We have done more than survive. We have proven that humanity is not weak. We have shown the galaxy that courage, intelligence, and unity can overcome any obstacle." Her tactical officer, still catching his breath, said, "Captain, the Empire, they won't forget this. Humanity is no longer underestimated." Elena nodded. "They will remember. And every species that doubted us will think twice before underestimating humans again. But this is not about fear. It is about respect. Respect for a species that refuses to surrender, even when the odds are impossible." In the Imperial fleet, chaos reigned. Ships were limping away, engines damaged, weapons offline. Clither banged his clawed hands on the console, fury and humiliation twisting his features. For centuries, the Empire had ruled with unmatched power, and yet one human battleship had shown them that courage and intellect could triumph over raw force. Elena watched the stars, the glow of distant suns reflecting in her eyes. She thought of Earth, of the generations of humans who had endured plagues, wars, famine, and cosmic disasters. Humanity had always survived by adapting, learning, and standing together. And now the galaxy had witnessed it firsthand. "Prepare to return to Earth," Elena said, her voice calm and steady. "Today we have made history. Humanity has shown its strength. But our journey is far from over. There will be more battles, more challenges, but humans will endure." Her crew nodded, hearts swelling with pride. They had faced the greatest empire in the galaxy, and they had survived. They had proven that human ingenuity, courage, and determination were forces no empire could ignore. The Terran Valor drifted through the stars, powerful, serene, and unyielding. Every pulse of its engines, every light along its hull, seemed to echo the heartbeat of humanity itself, strong, resilient, and unstoppable. As the Imperial fleet disappeared into the distance, Elena allowed herself a small, proud smile. Humanity had taken its first step into a new era. The galaxy had been warned. Humans were not to be underestimated, and their spirit would never break. She turned to her crew, her voice ringing with quiet authority and hope. "We have shown them what it means to face the impossible and survive. Remember this moment. Remember what we are capable of. And never forget, humanity rises when the odds are against us always." Her crew cheered quietly, not in arrogance but in pride, in unity, in the knowledge that they had stood against the greatest force in the galaxy and emerged victorious. Far across the void, the stars seemed to shine brighter, as if acknowledging the courage and spirit of one small species from a blue planet. Humans had not just survived, they had triumphed. They had rewritten what the galaxy thought possible, and in that moment the universe understood. Humans were not fragile, not insignificant, not weak. Humans were unstoppable. The Terran Valor sailed onward, a solitary beacon in the vastness of space, carrying the unbreakable spirit of humanity into the stars. The Galactic Empire would remember this day forever. Humanity had fought. Humanity had endured. Humanity had triumphed, and the galaxy would never be the same again. The message reached Admiral Clithar's bridge, and the silence that followed was thick with fear. For the first time, the Empire realized that humans were more than fragile beings. They were a force of will, ingenuity, and unyielding spirit. Elena looked out at the stars beyond the Terran valor. She felt a surge of pride for her crew, her planet, and her species. Humans had faced impossible odds before, and they had risen every time. Today they had proven it again, not through sheer numbers, not through fear, but through courage, intelligence, and unity. And the galaxy, for the first time, began to understand what the Empire had ignored for centuries. Humans were not to be underestimated. The Terran valor floated calmly in the aftermath, a single ship that had shifted the balance of power with courage and strategy. And somewhere, deep in the hearts of every human aboard, a quiet certainty grew. This was only the beginning. The Empire had learned a lesson that would echo through the stars. Humans were not weak. Humans were unstoppable. And the galaxy would never be the same again. The Imperial fleet had retreated, but Admiral Clithar's mind burned with fury. One human battleship had outmaneuvered hundreds of his warships. One human crew had humiliated the might of the Galactic Empire. Pride, arrogance, and centuries of dominance had been shattered in a single engagement. "Gather the entire fleet," Clithar ordered, his voice trembling with rage. "Prepare the annihilation protocol. We will not let a single human decide the fate of this galaxy." The fleet surged forward, bristling with every weapon the Empire could muster. Planetary destroyers, dreadnoughts, and advanced war machines assembled into a storm of firepower. Their plan was desperate, reckless, but they believed sheer force could overwhelm a single human ship. On the bridge of the Terran valor, Elena Rourke's calm presence reassured her crew. "They will come at us with everything they have," she said, "and we will show them that humanity never backs down." Her tactical officer, eyes wide with both fear and determination, replied, "Captain, their numbers are staggering. Even with shields and countermeasures, they could destroy us if they strike together." Elena's gaze was steady, unwavering. "Then we fight together. Humans survive by working as one. Today we show the galaxy why we endure." The Imperial fleet's attack began with a thunderous roar. Massive beams of energy tore through space, missiles streaked like comets, and volleys of lasers lit up the darkness. The Terran valor's shields flared, absorbing the initial strikes. Systems flickered, but the ship held steady. Elena gave precise commands. "Divert power to front shields. Activate pulse arrays. Countermeasures on full. We will not break." The human crew moved with remarkable synchronicity. Every pulse of energy, every maneuver, disrupted the enemy's formations. Imperial ships collided, engines failed, and weapons malfunctioned. The Empire's carefully orchestrated assault fell into chaos. One dreadnought tried to ram the human ship, only to explode in a brilliant flash as a pulse from the Valor disabled its engines. Admiral Clithar roared in disbelief. "How is this possible? How can one ship, one human crew, hold against us?" Elena's voice rang across her bridge, calm and resolute. "Because humans never surrender. We adapt, we endure, and we fight when all odds are against us. That is who we are." Another wave of Imperial ships attempted to flank the Terran valor, aiming to trap it in a crossfire. Elena anticipated their moves. She fired precise energy pulses at key points in the enemy formation. Shields collapsed, engines failed, and the fleet's coordination crumbled. Chaos spread like wildfire among the Empire's ships. Her crew moved in perfect harmony, trusting her leadership and each other. Every human aboard the Valor knew their mission: survive, protect, and prove that humanity was not weak. Clithar's pride was crushed. He had underestimated humans, believing them fragile and insignificant. And now, his entire fleet faltered under the strategy of a single ship and its crew. Elena allowed herself a brief smile. Humanity had faced extinction, plagues, wars, and disasters, yet humans always rose, stronger and wiser. Today, the Terran valor was the embodiment of that spirit. The Imperial fleet began to retreat, battered and disorganized. Their pride shattered. They could not risk further losses. Yet Clithar vowed silently, this was not over. The humans had survived, but the Empire would return, stronger and deadlier. Elena turned to her crew, her voice filled with quiet determination. We've held them off today, but we must be ready. The Empire will not forgive this. Humanity will face them again. And when we do, we will stand together, stronger than ever. Her tactical officer nodded, inspired by her courage. Captain, the galaxy has witnessed our strength today. They will not underestimate humans again. Elena looked out at the retreating fleet, feeling a surge of pride for her crew and for her species. The Terran valor had done more than survive. It had proven humanity's place in the galaxy. Humans were clever, resilient, and fearless. They were not just survivors. They were a force the Empire could no longer ignore. In the quiet that followed, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter. The galaxy had witnessed a single human battleship standing against the greatest empire in history, and winning. And somewhere deep inside Elena, a quiet certainty grew. This was only the beginning. Humans had survived the impossible before, and they would do so again. The galaxy had underestimated them for too long, but that mistake would never be repeated. The Terran valor floated calmly, powerful and unyielding, a beacon of human courage, strategy, and unity. And the Empire, shaken to its core, would carry the memory of this day forever. Humanity had struck back. Humanity had survived, and the galaxy would never forget it. The Imperial fleet had retreated, but only to regroup. Admiral Clithar's fury burned hotter than ever. One human battleship had humiliated his forces. One crew had shattered centuries of pride. And now, he would unleash everything the Empire had to crush them. This is it, Clithar hissed, pacing the bridge. Every weapon, every ship, no mistakes. We will end this human defiance once and for all. The Imperial fleet surged forward, a tidal wave of firepower and destruction. Planet killers, dreadnoughts, and advanced war machines all converged, their beams cutting through space like rivers of molten light. The humans were outnumbered 100 to 1, but the Terran valor had faced impossible odds before. Aboard the human ship, Elena Rourke stood at the bridge, calm and resolute. Her crew moved as one, hearts beating in rhythm with hers. This is our moment, she said quietly. Humans survive when others falter. We endure when all odds are against us. Today we show the galaxy who we are. Her tactical officer, eyes wide with tension, replied, Captain, they're using everything. The fleet is massive. Our shields can hold, but for how long? Elena's voice was steady. As long as we must, humans never yield. Focus on precision. Every pulse, every maneuver counts. Trust each other. Trust yourselves. Trust humanity. The first wave of attack struck. Massive beams tore across the void. Missiles streaked toward. The Terran valor and energy pulses battered their shields. The ship shuddered. Systems flickered, but it held. Elena's crew responded with flawless coordination. Shields were reinforced, countermeasures activated, and energy pulses fired with surgical precision. Imperial ships collided in confusion as the humans disrupted their formation. Clithar roared, fury and disbelief mixing. How can one ship resist all of this? How can they think so fast, act so boldly? Elena did not answer. She focused on survival and strategy, on keeping her crew alive and demonstrating humanity's strength. Every move, every calculation, disrupted the Empire's plan. They were clever, fast, and fearless, the embodiment of a species that refused to bow. The Imperial fleet tried a final maneuver, a coordinated assault designed to trap the Terran valor between two waves of death. But Elena anticipated it. With precise timing, she fired a concentrated energy pulse at the central dreadnought. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash, sending shock waves through the enemy formation. Other ships faltered, collided, and weapons misfired. Chaos reigned across the Imperial fleet. Her crew moved like a single organism, reacting faster than any alien fleet could anticipate. Every pulse, every maneuver, Every calculated strike showcased the ingenuity and courage of humanity. As the battle raged, Elena spoke to her crew. "Look at what we have done. One ship, one crew, hundreds against us. And still, we stand. This is what humanity is. This is our strength. Courage, intelligence, unity. This is our gift to the galaxy." The Imperial fleet, battered and confused, began to retreat. Ships limped away, some barely operational. Clithar's fury burned, but there was also recognition. Humanity had proven something undeniable. Elena allowed herself a quiet smile. Humanity had survived the impossible again. One small species from a blue planet had stood against the mightiest empire in the galaxy and had survived. Humans were clever, resilient, and fearless. They were a force no one could underestimate. The Terran valor drifted calmly in the aftermath, powerful and serene.